One weapon killed more people in 8 seconds than most armies managed in entire battles. Another was so terrifying that enemies would surrender at the mere sight of it being prepared. And one changed warfare so completely that it made castles, armor, and 1,000 years of military tradition completely obsolete overnight. Every era of human history has produced a weapon that didn't just dominate its time, it redefined what killing in war actually meant. These are the deadliest weapons from every major period of human civilization. And some of them are far more brutal than you'd expect. Around 2000 BCE, someone figured out that if you layered wood, horn, and sinew together in just the right way, you could create a bow that was shorter, faster, and far more powerful than anything that came before. The composite bow became the defining weapon of the Bronze Age and early Iron Age, and it turned mounted archers into an unstoppable force. The Hittites, Assyrians, Egyptians, and later the Mongols all used variations of this weapon to conquer vast territories. What made it so lethal wasn't just its range, which could exceed 300 yards, but its versatility. It could be used on horseback, which gave armies unprecedented mobility and striking power. The Mongol Empire, which at its height covered over 9 million square miles, was built largely on the back of mounted archers wielding composite bows. In the hands of a skilled archer, it could punch through armor and kill from distances that made retaliation almost impossible. In 672 CE, during a naval siege of Constantinople, the Byzantine Empire deployed a weapon so devastating that it saved the empire from collapse. Greek fire was a liquid incendiary that could burn on water, couldn't be extinguished with water, and stuck to whatever it touched like napalm. The exact formula has been lost to history, but it likely contained petroleum, quicklime, and sulfur. When deployed from siphons mounted on Byzantine ships, it turned enemy fleets into floating infernos. Arab forces attempting to conquer Constantinople were routed multiple times by this weapon. One historical account describes sailors jumping into the sea to escape the flames, only to continue burning in the water. The Byzantines guarded the formula so carefully that it became a state secret, and anyone who attempted to share it faced execution. For over 800 years, Greek fire gave the Byzantine navy a technological edge that no enemy could counter. At the Battle of Crécy in 1346, roughly 7,000 English longbowmen faced a French army that outnumbered them 3-1. By the end of the day, the French had lost over 4,000 men, including much of their nobility. The English losses were in the dozens. The English longbow, made from yew wood and standing as tall as a man, had a draw weight of up to 150 pounds and could fire up to 12 arrows per minute in the hands of a trained archer. Arrows from a longbow could penetrate chainmail and even plate armor at close range. What made it truly devastating was the sheer volume of fire. Thousands of arrows falling from the sky created a killing field that no cavalry charge could survive. The longbow dominated European battlefields for over 2 centuries and effectively ended the age of the mounted knight. When gunpowder weapons first appeared in Europe, they were clunky, slow, and unreliable. But by the early 16th century, the arquebus had evolved into something genuinely terrifying. It was a matchlock firearm that could kill an armored knight from 50 yards away, and it required only a few weeks of training to use effectively. Compare that to the years it took to train a longbowman or a knight, and you can see why it changed everything. Spanish conquistadors used arquebuses to devastating effect in the Americas, where the psychological impact of the noise and smoke was almost as effective as the bullets themselves. The arquebus made heavy armor obsolete and democratized warfare. Suddenly, a peasant with a few weeks of training could kill a nobleman who had trained for war his entire life. By the end of the 16th century, every major European army had adopted firearms, and the medieval world was effectively over. In 1884, Hiram Maxim invented the first truly automatic machine gun. It used the recoil energy from each shot to load the next round, which meant it could fire over 600 rounds per minute without overheating. The Maxim gun turned battlefields into meat grinders. During the Battle of Omdurman in 1898, British forces armed with Maxim guns killed over 10,000 Sudanese warriors in a single day, while suffering fewer than 50 casualties themselves. One British officer described it as not a battle, but an execution. The Maxim gun and its descendants defined World War I, where machine gun nests made frontal assaults suicidal and contributed to the stalemate of trench warfare. It's estimated that machine guns were responsible for the majority of the 17 million deaths during the war. Chemical weapons had been used sporadically throughout World War I, but mustard gas, first deployed by Germany in 1917, was different. It was persistent, meaning it could linger in the soil and air for days. It was insidious, often taking hours before symptoms appeared, which meant soldiers didn't know they'd been exposed until it was too late. Mustard gas caused blistering of the skin, blindness, and severe damage to the respiratory system. Even those who survived were often permanently disabled. Over 100,000 deaths and over 1 million casualties are attributed to chemical weapons during World War I, with mustard gas being the most notorious. The horror it caused led to the Geneva Protocol of 1925, which banned chemical weapons in warfare. It remains one of the few weapon types that the international community has largely succeeded in keeping off the battlefield. On August 6, 1945, a single bomb dropped from a single plane killed an estimated 70,000 people instantly in Hiroshima. 3 days later, Nagasaki suffered a similar fate. The atomic bomb didn't just end World War II, it created a new kind of warfare where total annihilation was possible in minutes. It remains the only weapon ever used that can credibly threaten human extinction. But in terms of sheer body count over time, the AK-47 might actually be deadlier. Designed by Mikhail Kalashnikov in 1947, the AK-47 is reliable, cheap to produce, and requires almost no maintenance. Over 100 million have been manufactured, and it's been used in virtually every conflict since the 1950s. It's estimated that the AK-47 and its variants are responsible for more deaths than any other firearm in history. It's become the weapon of choice for insurgents, revolutionaries, and militaries across the globe. From bows that built empires to bombs that nearly ended civilization, humanity's talent for creating instruments of death has been consistent throughout history. Each era produced a weapon that didn't just win battles, it redefined what battle meant. Some were tools of conquest, others were tools of survival. All of them changed the course of history in ways that still echo today. If you found this fascinating, drop a comment with the weapon you think had the biggest impact on history. And if you want to see more timelines like this, make sure you're subscribed because there's a lot more coming.